Hi friends, my name is Rachel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm sharing my journey to healing after years of severe chronic illness, and I'm doing a series where I go through each of the diagnoses I was given throughout my chronic illness journey to share specifics to that condition and how I ultimately found healing. I do want to make it clear that I don't claim or identify with any of these conditions anymore. And really the reason that I share about them is to help people that are at a different point in their healing journey. This episode is going to be a little bit different because it's not really a chronic illness. It's more of a structure type of thing, which I want to emphasize that the body has an incredible ability to heal and adapt, even given less than ideal structural situations. So this video is going to focus on my jaw. If you guys have been following me for a long time, you might know that I had pretty severe issues with my jaw going through my illness journey. When I was diagnosed with TMJ disorder and a dislocated and locked jaw, I didn't realize how much of a connection there is from the jaw to the neck and the spine, the whole body, the nervous system. They were all treated as separate things when really they must have all have been very related. Side note, it is interesting that a lot of people with chronic illness have this profile of recessed jaw, narrow palates, etc. I read a book called Jaws, The Hidden Epidemic or something like that. I'll link it down below when I find it. It was really eye-opening how all these things kind of connect. Now when I look around at people, I'm like, oh, that person's recessed, that person's recessed. They might struggle to breathe at night. It's so many people. When you start to look, it really does seem like an epidemic of our jaws shrinking. I don't want anyone to think that because they have a recessed jaw or a narrow palate or our mouth breathing that there's no hope for them to get better, because it's not true. Our bodies still are able to do amazing things and adapt, and whether or not you choose to do any sort of treatment with it, it's still important to address the nervous system from within and do that inner work, because that's the most important part of healing. So in terms of my childhood and teenage years, I just noticed that I had popping in my jaw if I opened it up wide. It wasn't something I would have gone to the doctor for. It wasn't something that really bothered me. When I went to college years later, probably every few months, I'd have an incident where my jaw would lock up and I really couldn't open my jaw more than just a centimeter or less, and that really freaked me out. I remember every time it happened, I was like, oh, what is this? And it just always resolved itself on its own within a couple of hours, and then I was able to use the full range of motion in my jaw. But then in 2017, the summer of 2017, I had one of those episodes where my jaw locked up. It went on for days and weeks and then years. When it happened, I was used to it just kind of resolving in a couple of hours, but then days went on and I still wasn't able to open my jaw. I could barely brush my teeth. Eating a lot of different types of foods were challenging because of that. I was at college during the time and I made an appointment with a jaw specialist, and this was about 3 weeks out from that time that it locked up. And when I went in for the appointment, they were shocked that I had waited that long, and they said, you should have come in earlier. We would have made you an emergency appointment if we knew it was this bad. And so I didn't know that, and they said, we are going to put you under anesthesia tomorrow morning to pop your jaw back in place. It is dislocated. And so we did that. Now looking back, I don't think that would have been my first choice as for what to do, but they did it, and he said it was hard to pop back in, but they were able to gain full range of motion while I was under. But then when I was recovering from that, I never was able to open again normally, and so that wasn't successful. I'm just referring to a timeline I have here on my computer. Basically, with that along came a worsening in my headaches and my migraines, and how this falls in my timeline of when I became chronically ill, this was the following year after I became chronically ill that my jaw locked up and didn't regain that motion again. Over the next couple of years, I saw a lot of different jaw specialists. I saw quite a few physical therapists that specialized in jaw treatments. I had several different types of injections. I did have prolotherapy injections, and that helped with the pain. So I was having a lot of jaw pain. I was no longer having the clicking because I couldn't even open enough for that to happen. But migraines, headaches, and jaw pain are the symptoms that I would associate with my jaw. After going to do physical therapy and seeing other specialists, most of these people were recommending that I get jaw surgery. Through research, we saw there wasn't a lot of positive stories with the type of surgery they were recommending, so we opted not to do jaw surgery. And I did have a procedure that is, I guess, maybe considered to be a very minor surgery called arthrocentesis, where they go in and flush out the joints, and that was also unsuccessful. As time went on, I started to have more and more chronic issues and chronic symptoms, and my chronic illness in general was just becoming more severe. The neurological issues and symptoms I was having were more impacting my life than the jaw specifically, and so we kind of put the jaw stuff on the back burner. And in 2019, I had a craniocervical fusion surgery where they fused the bottom of my skull to the C1 and C2, so I'm fused C0 to C2. And after that surgery, when I woke up from the surgery, my jaw was even more severe, and for a time I could barely get a straw in to sip water and was struggling to eat and chew. I had to have a special toothbrush made for me so that I could brush my teeth, where they shaved down the bristles. And I could barely open my jaw, and it was really painful. I guess looking back, it makes sense that pulling my whole jaw back with the fusion, making it so I don't have that natural movement in the neck where you're supposed to, would affect my jaw. And so after that, I found a jaw specialist that we went to that was out of state. He made special jaw orthotics for me. I'll put in a clip here that shows you what it looks like. So the daytime one is a clear one that goes in the bottom teeth, and then the one you wear at night goes on the top teeth, and it was meant to just help my jaw stay in a better position. In order to have those made, you have to have molds done of your teeth, and because I had such little opening, that was very tricky for them to do. They gave me shots in my jaw, they gave me pain medication, they were basically for hours trying to pry my jaw open enough just so they could put the little mold thing in there. I wore those for a few years, and they might have helped minimally, but truly they didn't help a lot. That jaw specialist did do some prolotherapy injections, which helped with the jaw pain that I was experiencing. It seemed like the more physical therapy I did for my jaw, the more pain that I had, and it didn't seem to be helping. And so I just stopped doing physical therapy because that actually helps the pain. And in time with that doctor, I was able to regain a little bit more opening, but it was still very minimal. I think I got to, I don't know if it was 15 or 18 millimeters. Normal range of motion in the jaw is 40 plus millimeters. Throughout my chronic illness journey, it really felt like my jaw was kind of more of a minor thing, even though this sounds kind of big in comparison to the other symptoms I was dealing with. My jaw specifically, it felt minor. I think looking back, all of it kind of connects, and so it's hard to separate and tell what is coming from what. So flash forward to 2021, I started the carnivore diets, and a lot of people have asked me how I did that with my jaw. And the answer is there are a lot of meats that you can eat that are not hard to chew. So I would eat a lot of ground meats. I would eat roasts where you'd slow cook it and it would fall apart tender, and eating that was easier for me to eat than something like bread or a cracker. I was able to do softer meats, and now I'm able to eat whatever. I think just in general, doing the carnivore diet was helpful for inflammation and chronic pain. I would say after 3, 4, 5+ months of doing the carnivore diet, my jaw pain was really very minimal. And then once I started the brain retraining, my jaw pain pretty much completely stopped after a month or 2 of doing brain retraining. The next year, in 2022, I went to Caring Medical to have the prolotherapy injections on my neck. I never had any prolotherapy done in my jaw. We decided not to do it. So I did have some very gentle chiropractic adjustments by Dr. Brian, which did help me to get a little bit more opening, which was cool. That was like the most that we had ever seen in such a short amount of time. I was very nervous to have chiropractic adjustments, but he didn't do any bending or popping or twisting. It was all just with, I guess it looked like a little gun with a blunt end where he would make these little adjustments, and it seemed to help. So if you want to see my current opening, I will show you now. So it's pretty good. I continued doing a carnivore diet for 1.5 years, and then the last 2.5+ years I've done more of an animal-based diet. Then the next year in 2023, I decided to start something called Myofunctional therapy, and this is to do with training your tongue muscles and your mouth and even jaw muscles to help you to have the correct resting tongue posture so you can swallow and breathe correctly. I was noticing that I was definitely mouth breathing at night, and when I was at rest, my tongue was resting low when it should be suctioned to the top of your mouth. At the time, I was really hesitant to even pursue this at all because I was doing so well. I was mostly living a normal life. I was just trying to continue to optimize and heal. With brain retraining, I stopped seeing all doctors. And I'm not telling you that's what you need to do, but that's what felt right for me. I stopped researching my symptoms. I stopped researching anything to do with my health and just really focused on learning to live life again away from chronic illness. And that was so healing for me. Something popped up, I wasn't even looking for it, where somebody was talking about tongue posture and how when you have low tongue posture, that actually activates your fight or flight nervous system side. And being able to have a resting tongue posture where your tongue is suctioned to the roof of your mouth, that helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And so I found it to be really cool, the connections to the nervous system with your tongue posture and tongue tone. So that is how I got into doing myofunctional therapy. I found that to be really helpful. I stopped at this point wearing my jaw orthotics because I felt like it was really hard to actually get my tongue up to the roof of my mouth while I had those in. So I stopped wearing those. I didn't have any retainers in or anything, and I haven't worn any since. But I definitely found the myofunctional therapy to be helpful with my nasal breathing and breathing at night. Helped to improve my sleep. I find it so cool how many ways there are to support our nervous system and to support our body's natural ability to heal. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I strongly believe that our bodies are able to heal and adapt given less than ideal structural circumstances. And that is an amazing thing. While I was doing myofunctional therapy, I was told that I had a tongue tie. And again, I want to make it clear, I was living a normal life. I was traveling, exercising, hiking, rock climbing, doing all these amazing things while having this whole less than ideal structural circumstance. And when they looked at my profile, they noticed I have a very recessed jaw. And this is something that was made worse by my fusion surgery, because when they fuse your neck to your skull, you're pushed back like this. And so that impacted my airway as well. I'll show you guys like how recessed I am. At times this felt discouraging, especially because the surgery made these situations worse that were already there. I think before this, I definitely already had a small jaw. I had some of these structural things going on that maybe made me more predispositioned to develop illness or nervous system dysfunction, but it felt really discouraging that the surgery I had actually worsened that structural situation. And so that's been something that's been hard to process and reconcile with, but I do believe it was a part of my story for a reason, even if just to share with others. Anyway, after doing myofunctional therapy for several months, I saw a tongue tie specialist, and they basically told me, yes, you have a tongue tie, but your main issue is your jaw. They said you need to have double jaw surgery, where we go in and move your jaw forward. And that's a major surgery, not the same surgery I had been recommended years ago for the dislocated jaw, but you bring the jaw forward to open up the airway. At the time, I did look into it and kind of consider it with caution, knowing my past experiences with surgery and knowing that I had healed so much, that I was already healthy. I didn't consider myself to be sick, but did still struggle to breathe when exercising and not breathing optimally when sleeping. So really the two things that I would say I still deal with in terms of my health are struggling to breathe when exercising and not breathing optimally when sleeping. Even though I deal with those things likely because of the structure going on, I still believe there are a lot of things I can do to improve and optimize naturally because of our body's ability to adapt and heal given those less than ideal structural circumstances. I'm still able to exercise. I'm still able to rock climb and hike and do all these things. It's just I get out of breath very easily. My husband, who has a great jawline, great airway, he just doesn't get out of breath when he's hiking, and that's been something that no matter how much I work at, it seems like it's still somewhat of a struggle. Very minuscule struggle in comparison to what I went through with chronic illness, and so I'm very happy with where I'm at. I feel good. I'm not in pain. I don't have any other symptoms other than to do with the breathing, which I think is such a testament to our body's amazing ability to adapt. We ended up deciding to see a jaw surgeon just to see what they had to say. This all was kind of an uncomfortable and triggering process for me as someone who just stopped seeing doctors altogether and really just separating myself from anything medical, but I think it was a good experience for me too. So we saw this surgeon in late 2023, so a couple years ago, and he recommended jaw surgery. He basically suggested that I needed it, that my situation was very severe, that I was only going to get sicker as I got older because of not having an optimal airway or jaw space. While I appreciated what he had to say, I didn't agree. I didn't agree that I couldn't be healthy without having the surgery. That's not to say that the surgery wouldn't be helpful for some people. Actually, when I was looking into this surgery, I found more positive stories than I have from other surgeries of people finding improvements in sleep and daily life and exercise and energy from having a increase in airway space. And so that was one of the things I was like, maybe I'm healthy now, I would handle a surgery better. Maybe I could consider this. And I will plan on doing a video more in depth on this specific topic because I think I could go on for quite a while about it, but it was something I didn't share about at the time because I wanted it to be private while I was making that decision. And we ultimately just decided not to do the surgery because mostly that I hadn't had positive experiences with major surgeries in the past, and just wanting to do everything I can to optimize my airway and my palate and all those things naturally with different breathing techniques, with working on continuing that myofunctional therapy. I'm actually considering now doing Invisalign to just widen my upper palate a little bit, and have heard some people even see an increase in airway from that. These are things that I would consider in the future. I'd consider doing a little bit of expansion in the future, but it isn't pressing because I'm healthy. I'm living a good, happy, normal life. Do I get frustrated sometimes that I get out of breath easily when I'm exercising? Yeah. But then in the scheme of things, for me, it wasn't worth risking something to go wrong when I just am healthy now. I do hope to improve my airway, and that in time my jaw can have some natural forward movement. I know there's some discrepancy on whether that is possible as an adult, but I do believe that it is, and I've heard stories of it being possible. So I'm hoping that in time will help. And I did have my tongue tie released in early of last year. I'm glad that I did it, but it didn't really change my quality of life. It more just allowed me to be able to fully get the back of my tongue suctioned up to my palate. I think in the long term it will be a good thing. I'll have to do a specific video on the tongue tie release as well and my experience with it, but I recovered easily from it, and overall glad I did it, but it didn't really change a whole lot for me. So in terms of my jaw specifically, I'd say the most helpful things have been myofunctional therapy, doing some gentle chiropractic adjustments, and then doing brain retraining and rewiring my nervous system to help me get out of the chronic pain, as well as doing an animal-based diet, lowering my inflammation levels that way as well. You guys are going to notice in these videos that there is a trend. Healing my nervous system is what helped me heal from everything that I went through, and there are so many different ways that we can help support and heal the nervous system, but overall that is what unlocks the body's innate ability to heal. I just feel so encouraged that even though I have a severely recessed jaw and not an optimal airway and a narrow palate, that I'm still healthy. I'm still living a normal life. I'm able to do anything that I want to do. And now I'm a mother. Like, it's amazing. I know I get so many questions about structural things. It's so easy to become hung up on that and think you can't heal because of a structure. And it usually isn't true, because the symptoms, they come from our brain. And while structure can kind of give us a predisposition to certain chronic illnesses or symptoms, our body is still designed to adapt and heal. That's an amazing thing. I've heard so many stories of people healing given less than ideal situations, and it's incredible. So anyways, that is my journey with my jaw. Obviously, I don't have a full range of motion now, but it's enough to do anything I need to do. The reason why I haven't been able to get full range of motion with my jaw yet, according to some of these specialists that I saw, like myofunctional therapy and the jaw surgeon over the past couple of years, is because of how the fusion surgery pulled me back so far that I don't even have room to open my jaw as much as it used to be able to open prior to all of this because of the surgery. And so my opening is probably about as good as it's gonna get, and that's fine with me. I am totally pain-free in my jaw. Occasionally I'll have like a little pop or something like that feeling when I move my jaw, but it's never painful. It's never anything that bothers me. So I don't see myself as having a jaw disorder. This is just how my jaw structure is, and that's okay. I'm working to optimize my health around it, and it's going well. I do just want to encourage people that may be dealing with a similar situation in terms of like recessed jaw, narrow palates, smaller airway, that healing still can happen without specific treatments or surgeries. I'm not saying that those are never beneficial or helpful, because I'm sure that they could be, but I still believe that the most important part of healing comes from within, and that our bodies just have this incredible ability to adapt, and that is something that has to come from within. It seems that a lot of times having these limiting beliefs of, well, I have a structural issue, I can't heal, those are what can hold people back from healing. I will also link my video where I talk about how to start believing healing is possible for you. I hope you find that helpful. I'm going to continue this series. I think I have like 10 or 12 different diagnoses that I'm going to go through and just share my experience with, and I hope that it encourages people and that I can reach as many people as possible to just share that message that healing is possible. Just know that I am rooting for you. I'm cheering you on. There is so much hope for better days, better years to come. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and follow along on Instagram, and I will look forward to seeing you guys in another video very soon.